Hi everybody, Chris here from Truly Holistic. I'm going to do a short video just talking about duality and neutrality. And recently there's been a big shift for a lot of people, not for everyone, because we're all playing our part, right? We're all experiencing our journey, and this whole Ascension thing is really about personal growth, and it's evolving. You know, the universal law is for consciousness to evolve, and everything in this reality is here because it's bound or connected to a consciousness, and it all wants the same thing. It wants to evolve itself, and it requires a sustenance of energy that might be a little bit different from one consciousness to another. So recently, a lot of people's part of your consciousness has evolved. And when I say part of your consciousness, one of your higher, more developed ascendants, okay, we call those higher selves. So the most recent term that I've been channeled to say is eternals, because they are not limited to the programming that we have on this reality. So they see themselves as being immortal, eternal. Really, the reason why we think we're just mortal is really programming, because we see ourselves as a human alone. And then we're much more than that. And we're going to get into that in a minute. But for a lot of people, one of their ascendants has evolved and has shifted out of the transition zone between duality and neutrality and gone straight into neutrality. And even though that's happened on another plane of existence, we could call it a dimension or a realm or a reality. Because you're connected to that consciousness, because it really is you, through quantum entanglement, there will be changes that you'll feel here, okay? And one of the big changes that we're going to see here is that because one of your ascendants has gone up into neutrality, that field of neutrality, that energy, that spectrum of vibration and frequency is closer to you here in this realm or this reality, which means there's going to be a push for to transfer from duality to neutrality. So we're going to talk about that in this video. I want to connect the duality, the neutrality thing with another thing that's been coming through a lot in regards to clearings. For anybody that's been doing sessions with me will know this, is that quite often it's not necessarily always at the end of the session, but let's say we're working on a specific area. Let's say somebody came to me and said they've got diabetes, and a specific area you're going to be working with diabetes, usually the pancreas, right? And you'll find out why the pancreas isn't secreting insulin. And that could be because of microbial balance. We call that fermentation, which originally created through a concentration of low vibration energy in that area. And that could be another consciousness that was feeding on that energy of the pancreas. It could be anything. And then we look at removing infections or ascending them, or whether what we need to do with that. And usually one of the last clearings, just to do in, say, the pancreas, is, I've had it in my charts for a wee while now, is we go dis-ease false, and then we go being true, okay? And I've always known it at the level of, well, okay, when you break down the word disease, is a feeling of just uneasiness, right? In that area, uneasiness. It's in dis-ease, right? It's in the word itself. And then with being true is trying to create the pancreas to be in the image of the way it's supposed to be. Okay, being true to itself. Okay, to what it was supposed to be. So I've always seen it that way, but we're now really taking another step forward of what that means, what the understanding and knowing of what that clearing is all about. And we've connected that now with what we're looking at with regards to duality and neutrality. So dis-ease is, again, a communication. Okay, and when we look at the physical body, the way that consciousness uses the body to communicate is through symptoms. Okay? Sadly, we've got a modern medical system that is based on just treating symptoms, taking pharmaceuticals to numb your body or your consciousness communication through the body to numb it, and really keep you in this boxed up, limited form in the mind that you are just human. You are just immortal. Okay? When really, the opposite's true. The opposite's true. We are immortal. Okay? Because we are an infinite consciousness experiencing within the vessel of a human. Okay? So we are at the core of who we are not human. So what we've been doing instead of saying dis-ease false, we're going communication of dis-ease false. Okay? And for example, pain. Pain's a perfect example of that. Okay? And if you don't resolve the core of that pain, then that pain will just get worse because it's a communication network that is just going to shout louder and louder until you get it. Okay? But what we're seeing with the majority of people, because in this reality, a majority of people see themselves as mortal, see themselves as just a human, very mind-orientated, very boxed in, is that they'll continue to get these symptoms and they're not listening to it. They're not understanding the reasoning why we have symptoms, why the body communicates through that way, which is creating a feeling of dis-ease or uneasiness. Okay, it's the word disease, right? So a perfect example of that, again, is when we're not listening to that, is cancer. You know, people start individual start to get symptoms that they kind of put aside because life's busy, right? Just take a few pills, just numb it at the moment, and life goes on. But after a while, things get a little bit worse. There's more symptoms. There's more pain. And you think, well, okay, I need to go and see my doctor. The doctor says it could be this, could be that. Nothing definite. Take some painkillers, take some anti-inflammatories, they'll help you. Or maybe take antihypertensive medication to lower your blood pressure. And you keep living your life. And then one day, you get that dreaded diagnosis of cancer, or you have a heart attack. And finally, I had to scream so loud to cancer or to a heart attack for you to finally sit down and actually reflect and listen to the body. Okay? So, the more knowing or understanding of the process is needed at this time. And the process that's needed at the moment is that to know that we're not just physical. We're just not a human. We're not just mortal. Okay, we're more than that. So what I've come to find is that dis-ease, the communication of dis-ease, then creates a space of duality. Okay, why we say duality is polarity too. And when you have polarity, you have two opposites. And that will always create conflict. Okay, and that's the world we see out there. And that's been created with us thinking that we're just only human, we're only mortal. Okay, we're being heavily mind-orientated, and this needs to shift, this needs to change. Especially at this time right now with COVID-19 thing going on. This is a time for us to really make a shift. And again, I'm seeing on social media, okay, that people are fighting this COVID-19 thing. It's a fight, okay? And there's so many conclusions, there's so many theories of what COVID-19 is really showing. People saying it's not even real. People, we're going from one extreme to people saying it's not even real. One person saying to the extreme that, hey, everyone's going to die. Like, we should be very fearful of COVID-19. You know, it's duality. If we want to shift out of all this rubbish that we have in the world today, it's not going to be done using the same energy of what created it. Okay, and that's duality. We need to shift above it, which we call neutrality. Okay? It's not about comparing yourself to another person, not competing with others, not joining one side to fight, to be part of a fight. It's not about that. Okay? It's not about It's not even wanting, like wishing for peace, wishing for love. You have to be love, be peace. Okay? It's all about evolving and growing you as an individual into the best version of self. And you can only do that when you have connection to self. Okay? So this dis-ease creates a space of duality, because we are creators of space. We are creators of reality. It's not about space is there. We create space. Okay? And when that space of duality is created, it creates what I like to call jealousy consciousness. Where consciousness is the genesis, the origin of everything. Okay? So when we look at jealousy and envy and all sorts of things, it only comes in a space of duality where we're conflicted with others, where we compare ourselves to others, we compete with others. That's the only space where jealousy and envy and all these really negative things that are really creating a problem in humanity right now, it's only created within a duality space. It cannot be created within the neutrality space. Okay? So we've already talked about, us seeing ourselves. Duality again is seeing us as immortal, is mortal. We're just human. We're just flesh. We're blood. We're very closed off in the way that we see things. Okay, we conform to a collective notion, social norms, and with doing so, we disconnect from self, and we call that a lost soul. Okay, now the other side of the coin is being. Okay, so when we break down the word disease, dis-ease, so uneasiness, being is all about being at ease. Okay, because the communication of consciousness through the body is through feel. That's why we feel pain. We feel sensation of pain, inflammation. It's communication. Okay, it's not thinking, the mind, feeling. Okay, the heart. Okay, so we call our species human beings, but majority of the humans out there are not in a place where they're just being. Okay, they're in the mind. They're in a dis-ease space, or they're creating a dis-ease space, which we call duality. Okay, so the other side of the coin, as I say, when we are just being, okay, we're not looking too far ahead of ourselves. We're being in the present. We're being in the now, where we are creative. Do you know why we're creative? Because in that space we connect to self. We have a greater connection to self. We know who we are. We are connected to our true identity, and that true identity is not human. That is you as a consciousness. Okay, that's the genesis of you. And recently I've just found that genesis means origin, right? And the genesis of everything is consciousness. So Genesis is consciousness, okay? So being creates a space of neutrality, not duality, neutrality, okay? And what that creates is you seeing yourself as that immortal consciousness, that infinite consciousness, which is your true identity all this time, okay? In this space, you're open, okay? You're not closed with the mind. You're open through the heart. And I don't even like to call that open-minded. I think that's not the way, that's not the greatest terminology to use, because it's nothing to do with the mind, it's to do with the heart. When we talk about the greatest minds in history, when we talk about Einstein, when we talk about Tesla and the greatest minds of our time, we shouldn't be calling them the greatest minds, because they were highly intuitive individuals, which comes through the heart space and never comes through the mind. Okay? So, immortal, open, and you bring your light forward. Okay? You don't conform to others. You bring your own light forward. You bring more of your true identity to the fore. Okay? And with doing that, you have a greater connection to self. Okay? So, as I said, that it's a very common clearing we're doing with, we find out, we have to clear out communication of dis-ease. Okay, because again, that duality energy is not serving you at this time. It's time to shift up. Okay, but it all happens on an individual level, every person. Okay. And as I say, the key with the whole deceased thing, and it's communication, understanding the body. Your consciousness is using the body as a vessel through the body to try and get to you, to communicate with you. But I'm seeing a lot of people, they're not listening to that. They don't understand the concept of it. Okay? As I said, the body speaks through symptoms to try and create an awareness. So, for example, if you're hammering a nail and you miss the nail and you hit your thumb, that creates an awareness pretty quickly, doesn't it? What's creating that awareness? That the thumb, that the hammer hit the thumb? No. That unbelievable pain that you feel in your thumb when you hit it with the hammer. Okay, so it creates an immediate awareness to it, and you place it. It gets your attention. Okay, what are we seeing with the media out there? What are they trying to do? They're trying to get your attention. Okay, they know the game. They're playing the game. You are being played if you're playing that game, right? Okay, so you have that attention, and it's saying, well, because if you didn't have that attention, you might not see it until hours later, and it might have become necrotic. Too late by then. Okay? So, body speaks through symptoms. Okay? It's trying to create an awareness. So you can then lift off that duality energy, that dis-ease. Okay? That has been created through you living within the limitations of duality. Then it's time for you. The lesson there is the step forward and step up above duality and get into this field of neutrality we're talking about. Okay. Now, this is interesting about dis-ease, because this other word is connected with dis-ease, which is illness. And it rings so true. Odin said in the movie 4-2, he was talking to Jane Foster, who was the Thor's love in that movie. He goes because he was because they see themselves as immortal beings, right? Thor's a god in mythology, right? We know there's more to that, but that's a story for another day. And he saw Jane Foster as the human, right? So this mortal being. And what Odin said to her, he goes, she is mortal. Illness is their defining trait. Okay, what are we seeing now? Human people that see themselves only as human beings, it's got the number one fear out there is death. Okay, death is a program. It's part of the human, but it's not part of you. If we just switch the word death for transformation, which is a lot more correct, because we are energy. We're an infinite energy at the core of us. And energy doesn't die. Energy transforms. Then this world could be a completely different thing. Now, the why we have death is to create a mass collective consciousness of fear. And fear keeps us locked in duality. Limits our capabilities. Okay? It's the biggest obstructor, block of all time is fear. Okay? So when we see ourselves as this mortal, this human being, which is a duality concept, illness is our defining trait. If you don't want illness in your life and you want vitality, well, you cannot live within this spectrum of frequency or plane of existence, or what we call duality. We need to go above that into neutrality, and you need to start seeing yourself as being immortal, this infinite consciousness, which is your true identity. Okay? Because our power lies with where we place our focus, how we use our intent, and we can use that power behind the image of us knowing we are an infinite consciousness and we are immortal. What can be achieved then? So, what I'm saying here is the human focus is the problem. Seeing ourselves as only human is the problem. instead of, why don't we switch that around? So duality is to see us as a human only. Neutrality is to see us for what we really are, our true identity, which is infinite consciousness. Okay? And through infinite consciousness, that's about feel. It's about the sensation of feel. Okay? It's not thinking, it's feeling. Okay? And for all that information to come through and to bring your light forward, we need to stay out of the mind and we need to stay in the heart. Because our only connection to our self, our consciousness, our higher aspects of self, our immortal aspects of self, is through the heart, nowhere else. We are incarnated here into the human experience through the heart, and we also leave through that same space back to source. So I hope you've really enjoyed this video. I love talking about this stuff. And please remember, not only you can book appointments with me to work on, health problems or healing problems, we also can do sessions where I give coaching about a lot of this stuff. How you can put practices into your life, your own life, where you can remain heart-centered, be in the now, be in the present, connect to your immortal self, your infinite self, your consciousness. Stay out of the mind. I can teach you all this. So keep that in mind. Keep that in heart, I should be saying. So anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you want to book an appointment, go to my website, trulyholistic.net. Until next time, see you later.